Hopefully you've seen my previous video about tables and why we need to bother with them, why they're so important in Excel. Now we're going to take that to the next stage, and we are going to talk about data formats and why it's so important. Why do we need to bother about them? This is probably one of the biggest things when people come along courses. This is one of the things that I spend the most time trying to unravel. If you get this right at the beginning, it's going to save you a lot of time, and it'll save me a lot of time explaining it. So look at the data. Let's jump into Excel and tell you exactly what I mean. Okay, so here's our spreadsheet we worked on. Now, a couple of things. What you might notice, or maybe you don't, but if I've typed in any text, so if I click on Bob's name there, it's on the left hand side. But if you look at the dates, they're over on the right. And this date's over on the right as well. I'm actually going to put some figures in. Let's put a column in J. So let's put in quantity. Okay, so let's say we want to put in the quantity of work. Okay, so I'm going to put in a couple of figures. Okay, so again, you'll notice that the figures are on the right. So Excel understands the difference between text and data. So if it's just text, it puts it on the left. If it's figures, it puts it on the right. And you might be saying, well, hold on a minute, what about this phone number? Well, if we look at the phone number, that's this one here. Show you here in D2. Now, there's a couple of things in here that stop Excel interpreting it as numbers. And the first thing is the space. That's there between the two, and the second one is, I don't know if you watched my first video, but you'll see I put a little apostrophe at the beginning, and that just indicates to Excel that it's not a number format, it's a text format. So this is quite important with phone numbers, because I'm just going to type in a number and you'll see what happens. So if I type in a number with a 0, when I press enter, it drops the 0. So by putting the apostrophe in and also the space, you're saying actually this isn't a number to be calculated, because we don't add up phone numbers. It's a number just to be input. So essentially it works as text. So yeah, so text will go on the left, dates, numbers, percentages, anything else will go on the right hand side. Which leads me very nicely on to talking about the fact that Excel does recognise what we type in as well. So I'm going to click on F2, and if you look up here in your formula bar, you can see it knows it's a date. So it's quite good at telling the different types. If I click on a figure, that part of the formula bar will change to general. So it just means it hasn't got any formatting applied if it's general. Now, when you're popping dates in, you need to use the / rather than dots. Don't ever use dots, because your data won't sort. Excel doesn't understand whether they're a decimal or a date, and it will treat them as text. So and that's a real problem, especially if you've got a spreadsheet already there and people have used dots and Excel's picking them up as text, it won't sort. But so when you put a date in, you put in the day, / the month, obviously this is UK formatting, / and I could just put the year. I don't need to put 2023, I can put 23, but when I press enter, Excel will then add in the 00s and the 2023. So you don't need to type it in full, but you do need to separate the day, the month and the year with a /. Yes. So that's just a couple of tips there that you might find quite useful when you're entering data. If I need to, also the other thing is Excel is all the time in the background. It's working out what type of data is. I'm going to show you these filters. If you haven't ever used these before, in other videos we're going to use them, but can you see you've got a little drop down there, and we can use them to reorganize our data. But I want you to, I'm just going to click on that little drop down there, and you'll see it says sort A to Z. It understands that column has got text in it. Now I'm going to go to a date column. Let's go to the date column in F. So click on the arrow, and it changes the terminology. It's then sort oldest to newest, newest to oldest. It understands they are dates. and we're going to go to the last column, the quantity column. Click on the arrow, sort largest to smallest, smallest to largest. So it's understanding that that is numbers. So even though when we put information in Excel, we just think we're typing stuff in, actually Excel is looking at it all the time and saying, what is this? What can I do with this? And that's why it's so important. You've got to get it right at this stage. So have a look. If you're following along, have a look at what you input. What data types is it coming up with? Follow us for this series, and we've also got a tables course on our website if you want to do this in more detail. But I really hope this has given you some information that's useful. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you found it useful. Thanks very much for watching, and there's another one coming up in the next few days.